The scent of decay lingered in the air, a putrid mixture of rot and despair. Bodies lay sprawled along the dirt roads, their skin clinging to brittle bones, eyes hollow and unseeing. The wails of starving children echoed through the desolate village, their cries blending into the ceaseless wind. Hunger had transformed our world into a graveyard before death had even claimed us. My stomach clenched as I staggered into our home, the wooden walls barely holding together against the creeping cold. My father loomed over me, his face twisted in anger.
"You useless girl!"
He spat, his voice thick with resentment.
"Your brother needs to eat. Get up and find something before he wastes away."
I flinched as his hand cracked against my cheek, sending me reeling. My brother, his golden child, curled under a thin blanket, too weak to lift his head. I swallowed my protest, knowing it would do nothing but earn me another blow. Instead, I obeyed, dragging myself beyond the dying village into the skeletal grasp of the forest. The trees stretched above me like twisted ribs, their barren branches whispering in the wind. I searched for anything. Roots, berries, even insects. But the earth had long since been stripped bare. My knees buckled beneath me and I collapsed against a moss-covered rock, my breath coming in ragged gasps. Then the scent came, sweet, earthy, irresistible. I turned my head and saw it, an unfamiliar plant nestled between gnarled roots, its leaves shimmering in the dim light. I reached out, plucking a handful and lifting them to my nose. The aroma wrapped around me like a comforting embrace, drowning out the gnawing emptiness in my stomach. Desperate, I placed a leaf on my tongue. Flavors exploded in my mouth. Warm bread, roasted meat, honeyed fruits. My vision blurred, my body sinking into blissful relief as the hunger dissolved. My last thought before darkness claimed me was that I had finally found salvation. When I awoke, the forest had shifted. The brittle cold had softened into something almost welcoming. I touched my stomach. No pain, no hunger. I felt alive. I gathered as much of the plant as I could carry and returned home, breathless with excitement. My father barely spared me a glance, but my brother, my frail, dying brother, parted his cracked lips when I pressed a small leaf to them. He chewed weakly at first, then more eagerly. His sunken cheeks flushed with colour, and before my eyes, he changed. That night we feasted. The hunger that had plagued us melted away, replaced by warmth, by laughter. For the first time in months, we dreamed of a future where we might survive. Morning came with screams. I opened my eyes to chaos. Villagers surrounding our home, their faces twisted in horror. My father stood at the doorway, pointing a trembling finger at me.
"She's a demon!"
He howled.
"She devoured her own brother!"
I turned in confusion, my gaze landing on the bed where my brother had lain. But he was no longer there. Instead, bones jutted from the mattress, gleaming white and clean, picked dry as if by unseen hands. My hands. "No," I whispered, stumbling backward. "No, I didn't." They didn't listen. They never listened. Torches flared, the flames reflecting in their wild eyes as they surged forward. I ran. My feet pounded against the dirt, the forest swallowing me whole as I plunged into its depths. The voices faded, but the betrayal lingered. I would never return. Never again. Days blurred into weeks, then months. The forest became my home, the only place that didn't seek to destroy me. I lived on the plant, my hunger forever sated, my body never growing weak. I was alone. Until her, a girl, thin as a reed, shivering beneath the trees. Her clothes hung from her bony frame, her eyes sunken and dull. I recognized that look, the acceptance of death, but I would not let it claim her. I knelt beside her, pressing a leaf to her hands. "Eat," I whispered. She hesitated before taking the offering. Her lips parted, and as she chewed, her gaze locked onto mine. For the first time in ages, I felt warmth spread through me. A connection. A purpose. Sleep claimed us both. When I woke, the world had changed again. My humble forest shelter had vanished. In its place stood a house unlike any I had ever seen. Walls of gingerbread, windows of spun sugar, a roof dripping with caramel. The air was thick with the scent of confections, an overwhelming sweetness that made my head spin. I turned to the girl, but she was gone. All that remained were her clothes, crumpled in a heap near a dark stain on the ground. My breath caught in my throat. No, she must have left, must have found her way home. I told myself this lie over and over. I stayed, I rebuilt. I tended to the plants, waiting for another lost soul to wander in. Each time I welcomed them. Each time I offered them salvation. And each time, when I awoke, they were gone. The hunger never returned, but neither did they.
I didn't know it would seep into me like poison. None of us did. Back then, the excitement of the role, the promise of fame, was a song I couldn't resist.
You're perfect for the Tin Man,
the director had said, eyeing me with that hungry, hollow smile.
We want real, authentic, pure art.
Real. It always starts with that word. And so, I agreed when they told me the makeup would be special. An aluminum paint, a metallic sheen that would make my face gleam like I'd stepped straight out of a fairy tale. I sat in the chair for hours. The makeup artist was meticulous, layering on the aluminum liquid with a brush that felt stiff, almost sharp against my skin. The paint was cold, seeping into my pores, stiffening as it dried. I barely recognized myself when I glanced in the mirror, a grinning, gleaming statue of a man.
Don't smile too much.
The makeup artist warned.
It might crack.
Crack. I should have paid attention to that word too. The first sign was the itch. It started as a tickle under my chin, just beneath the aluminized jawline.
Cut!
I scratched absently, my fingernails scraping against the hardened paint. Nothing. My skin wasn't mine anymore. It was smooth and unyielding, a surface more metal than flesh. By day 3 of shooting, the itch had grown into a wildfire. My face burned underneath the layers of makeup, and the feelings spread like ants crawling up my throat into my ears. My skin no longer itched, it screamed.
It's fine.
The director barked when I complained.
Art is sacrifice, remember? Look at you! You're beautiful! The Tin Man lives because of you.
Beautiful. I stopped arguing. I stopped sleeping too, because every night I would wake with my body cramped in agony. Fingers curled into claws, toes bent until I thought the bones might snap. My skin felt hot, but my reflection was still ice cold. Then the coughing started. I was in my trailer rubbing my forearm absently. Aluminum dust shimmered off my fingertips like falling ash. I coughed once, then again, harder this time, and felt something catch in my throat. When I spit into the sink, the sputum was grey. Dark veins of aluminum streaked through it. It's fine, I muttered to myself, but my voice sounded wrong, hoarse, metallic, as if something hollow were vibrating inside me. I leaned in close to the mirror and gasped. The skin around my mouth had cracked. Tiny fissures ran from the corners of my lips, flaking open to reveal raw, oozing red. I touched it, and a piece of silvered skin peeled away like dried paint. I bit back a scream. I had become what they wanted, but... I went back on set the next morning, but no one would look me in the eye.
Don't touch him.
I heard one of the extras whisper.
The stuff gets on you. It doesn't come off.
My co-star recoiled when I brushed her arm. I looked down to see aluminum dust smeared across her pristine costume. I tried to wipe it away, but my fingertips left behind streaks, and when I pulled my hand back, my nails had turned silver. The burning worsened. My skin, no, my surface, tightened until I could barely move. I felt like a statue that might shatter if I moved too quickly. Still, they made me perform. Still, they called it art. The final scene was meant to be triumphant, the Tin Man walking into the sun. I staggered onto the set, blinking against the blinding light. Each step felt heavier than the last, my joints grinding like gears.
Keep going!
The director yelled. My feet stuck to the ground. I looked down and saw aluminum pooling around my boots, spreading like mercury, as if I were melting into the earth. I tried to lift my foot, but it was no longer mine. My toes had fused together, the aluminum consuming the spaces between them. "Help!" I croaked, my voice ringing like a cracked bell. No one came. The sun grew hotter. I raised a trembling hand to shield my face and saw the skin slough off, ribbons of aluminum paint fluttering away to reveal smooth, gleaming metal. My hand caught the light and reflected it back at me, a twisted, blinding mockery of myself.
Almost there.
The director whispered, his voice filled with awe. I opened my mouth to scream, but no sound came. My lips had fused together, my vision blurred, darkening at the edges, and in those final moments I realized what I had become, a statue, a monument to sacrifice. I woke up in a hospital bed, the ceiling a sterile white. My lungs burned with every breath, and a mask hissed softly over my face, pumping oxygen into me.
You inhaled too much aluminum dust.
The doctor said when I opened my eyes.
You're lucky we caught it in time.
Lucky. I spent 2 weeks trapped in that bed, ribs aching with every inhale, my body slowly purging itself of the aluminum poison. They told me my skin had turned blue during the reaction. I tried to laugh at the irony, but the sound came out broken. The studio sent flowers, but no apology.
They're replacing you.
My agent told me.
It's not personal, okay? They're changing the makeup. It's safer now.
Safer. I lay back in bed staring at the ceiling, imagining the next poor fool sitting in that makeup chair, letting the aluminum seep into his skin. I wondered if he'd see me in the mirror, a shadow of the Tin Man, trapped forever in the cracks.
Lucid dreaming had always fascinated me. The idea of controlling my dreams, bending reality to my will, was exhilarating. I spent hours reading guides, watching videos, and joining forums to learn the craft. One recurring warning, however, intrigued me the most. Never look into a mirror while lucid dreaming. It was a rule repeated in countless posts. People claimed mirrors in dreams were portals to places your mind couldn't comprehend. But rules were meant to be broken, weren't they? That night, as I drifted off to sleep, I whispered to myself, "This is a dream. I am in control." When I opened my eyes, I stood in a crumbling mansion. The air was heavy, tinged with damp rot. The walls groaned as if alive. Every instinct screamed at me to leave, but I had a mission. I wandered through the dim corridors until I found it. An ornate mirror framed in black and silver, taller than me, standing against the far wall. My reflection was hazy, shifting like water. I hesitated, but curiosity pushed me forward. As I peered closer, the surface of the mirror rippled. My reflection vanished, replaced by something else. A scene unfolded before me, fiery chaos. Rivers of molten lava flowed through a barren landscape. Faceless figures writhed in agony, their silent screams haunting. The heat felt real, blistering my skin. Suddenly, the mirror pulled at me, its surface like a vortex. My feet slid forward. Panic surged, and I yanked myself back, knocking the mirror over. It shattered into countless shards, each reflecting fragments of the hellish scene. When I turned around, she was there. Her skin was pallid, almost translucent, veins spidering beneath. Her eyes were empty voids pulling at my very soul.
Leave!
She hissed, her voice echoing in the empty house.
Leave now, or regret it forever!
Before I could react, the dream collapsed into darkness. I woke up gasping, my heart pounding. The room was familiar, comforting, but the dream's intensity lingered. It was just a dream, I muttered, trying to convince myself. My phone buzzed. A last-minute work trip. I had to leave immediately. The journey was uneventful until the taxi pulled up at my lodging for the night. A small, secluded inn. My stomach twisted as I stepped out. The inn was the house from my dream. Every detail matched. The cracked paint, the warped wooden door, even the oppressive air. An older woman greeted me with a kind smile.
Welcome, dear. Let me take your bags. You must be tired.
Her face was eerily familiar. The same hollow eyes, the same pale complexion. Thank you, I mumbled, my voice shaking. Inside, the house was even worse. Shadows seemed to stretch unnaturally and the silence was deafening. The woman led me to the living room and gestured toward the sofa.
Rest well,
she said, her smile lingering a moment too long. That's when I saw it. The mirror. It stood in the corner, identical to the one from my dream. My knees went weak. I turned to her, my voice trembling. Where did you get that mirror? She tilted her head, her smile never wavering.
Oh, it's always been here.
She left, and I stared at the mirror, paralyzed. It was just a coincidence, I told myself, though deep down, I knew better. Minutes later, she returned with a tray.
Tea?
She offered. I took the cup, my hands shaking. She watched me, waiting. Something about her gaze felt wrong, predatory. Her smile stretched a little too wide, her eyes lingering on me too long. My fingers trembled as I held the cup, every instinct screaming at me not to drink. With a sharp motion, I flung the tea at her. The cup shattered and she recoiled, her face twisting with something unhumanly sinister. Without waiting to see what would happen next, I bolted. Outside, I flagged down a passing taxi, my hands shaking as I climbed in. As the car sped away, relief began to replace my fear. I had escaped, or so I thought. The road was empty, shrouded in a thick fog that seemed to swallow everything beyond a few meters. Suddenly, a figure appeared in the middle of the road. The driver swerved to avoid her, but the car skidded and crashed into a tree. My head slammed against the window, and the world blurred. When I came to, the driver was gone. I was alone in the wreck, surrounded by suffocating silence. Then she appeared, the pale woman, standing just beyond the shattered windshield.
Death is inevitable,
she whispered, her voice echoing in the stillness. I scrambled out of the car, running blindly through the fog until I stumbled upon a small, unlit house. The door was unlocked, and I threw myself inside, slamming it shut behind me. The house was eerily quiet, each room draped in shadows. As I opened a door at the end of the hallway, I froze. There I was, lying on a bed, my chest rising and falling as though in sleep. Is this still a dream? Or am I... Before I could finish, the pale woman materialized behind me.
You've already crossed the line. There's no going back.
I turned to her, my mind racing. If this was a dream, I could wake myself up. I lunged toward my sleeping form, desperate to return to my body. But she was faster. Her icy grip closed around my wrist, dragging me backward.
No one escapes their fate.
She hissed. I struggled, kicking and screaming, but her strength was inhuman. Her stomach stretched impossibly wide, revealing an abyss of darkness. With one final pull, she swallowed me whole.